The meeting is currently being recorded.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'd like to call the 16th meeting of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Advisory Board to order. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. If you would like to ask a question or give a comment, please use the raise your hand feature. We also ask that you turn on your camera so that your name appears when you speak. Feel free to cover your camera on your device if you want to appear on the screen. And as always, if you have not returned your conflict of interest form, you will not be permitted to participate in any motions or votes today. With that, can we move to the roll call?
Thank you, Councilman. Just jump in the roll call here. Will the representative of District 6 please state they're present?
Present.
Is the representative of the Hill CDC present?
Present.
Thank you. Is the representative of the Hill District Federal Credit Union present?
Present.
Thank you. Is the representative of the Hill District Consensus Group present?
Present.
Is the representative of the Wesley Center AME Zion Church present? Is the representative of Shenley Heights Community Development Program present?
Present.
Thank you. Is the representative of the Historic Hill Institute present, pardon me. Is the representative of Ujamaa Collective present? Is the representative of the Office of State Representative Ariane Abney present? Is the representative of the Office of the County Executive Fitzgerald present? Is the representative of the Office of the Mayor present? Lisa did send me an email letting me know she would be unable to join us today. Is the representative of the Pittsburgh Public School District present? Finally, is the representative of Allegheny County Council present? All right, thank you so much, everyone. Back to you, Councilman.
Councilman, before we move forward, I'd like to ask that the URA update this list to reflect the Office of County Executive Innamorato. And the appointee, is that for County Executive Innamorato, or is that for former County Executive Fitzgerald?
You're correct, River. We do need to update it, and we need to ask County Executive Innamorato to send a representative.
Okay, so I'd like to make sure that happens. And then I'd also like to get a letter out to each of the elected official offices and let them know that the attendance has largely been absent from these conversations, and that, we'd like to either get a new appointee or an appointee from their office so that we can have a more fulsome conversation on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe I saw Kimberly Ellis just join, which I believe gives us a majority of voting members. So we'll move on to old business, beginning with the Hill Home Repair Program update. Julia, will you walk us through a brief update?
Yeah, thank you. So of the 20 projects that were awarded, 3 are complete. 1 is currently under construction. 5 projects are closed and pending construction. As of this afternoon, I'm pretty confident they're all going to start next month. We'll have an update next month. And then 11 are in the bidding process or working towards closing.
Thank you. Questions? If none, we'll move on. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Councilman, I did have a question. Can somebody speak to the 11 that are in the bidding and closing process? Can you explain that?
Sure, happy to do that. So some of the contract residents have opted to work with their own contractors, or they got a bid they didn't like, so they wanted to go with a different contractor. So it's just sort of either working with contractors who are new to the URA to get in their into our program. So that's an additional process, and then work with them through the closing process, or it's residents, working with different contractors to get a bid they like. So that can add time to the process.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Any further questions?
We have a hand raised.
I think Alicia's hands up, yeah.
Yes, I have a question. Will we be able, please, before our next meeting, just to get an idea? All I really would like to see is where these projects are in our Hill District. A street, I realize you're trying to protect the privacy, but I think we should know where they are. So is that possible to please get a list out as to where these projects are occurring, at least the streets? That's not a private issue. Because I'd like to know the geographic distribution of these awards, and I have yet to be able to determine that based on the information that has been provided between our last meeting and this meeting.
Alicia, I don't think it would be an issue for the committee
Thank
to
you.
get, and correct me, I don't think it would be an issue for the committee to get addresses of recipients. Would that be a problem for the committee, not the public per se, to get those addresses at this time?
So when we worked with the applicants, we told them we'd keep their addresses private.
Well, we need to know at least the streets. I mean, we have to be held accountable because right now, the reason I'm asking is because I'm curious because questions have come to me about the geographic distribution.
Sure. So I will say the first round was broken up. We did try to make sure all the neighborhoods were served, the neighborhoods in the Greater Hill District boundary were served with this first round. So
Can you get a list out, please, Julie? At least,
I'll put a list of the streets together for you.
thank you. And the type of projects being done?
Yeah, I think we can work on sort of like a cumulative X amount of,
If one house.
X amount of, windows, something like that.
Yes, exactly. Because if the only project in a home was putting, let's say, a lift in or patching a roof, I would like to know that to see what the extent of the work being done was.
I will work on that and send it out to the committee.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
And you can add a column that says Middle or Upper Hill District. and
I
a
will
number
do-
to the street.
Include that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Director, sorry.
Hi, yeah, I didn't know if it was appropriate for me to chime in here. The previous slide, Marimba, I just wanted to clarify your request. Can we go to the previous slide? About your request to send letters to elected officials. So next slide, sorry, yeah, there you go, okay. Okay, you wanted letters sent to elected officials about their representatives not attending. Can you be specific as to what letters you want and who would send those? Who would draft the letters? Who would sign it?
I'm more than willing to draft it. I think the letter should probably come from the two co-chairs. So signing on behalf of myself and Marimba, but the letters would go to DeWitt Walton, who I'm not sure has ever attended one meeting, Sala, who I believe has attended one,
Okay,
the mayor's office, who Lisa has attended. She hasn't recently, but she has attended previously.
okay,
And we also need to get a letter to our new county executive asking her to send a representative on her behalf.
okay.
And then as well as Arian Abney's office, because I think Jamal may have attended once.
Okay. All right, so 5 letters. Abney, the new county exec, DeWitt Walton, Sala, and the mayor. 5 letters. And then the letter for the county executive, we would ask her to assign a new representative.
Yeah, we should. I can look through and find it. I know we have those letters boiler template that we've used previously in the past.
Okay.
We would just need to update it.
Okay, and would you like Julia to draft those letters? Oh, yeah,
Sure.
you said you would draft them and then, okay, would you like the URA to facilitate anything?
Actually, if Julia could draft it, that'd probably be helpful.
Okay, all right. So, all right, so Julia can draft the letters, and then she would have the co-chairs as signatories. So she'll send, once she has those 5 letters drafted, she'll send them to Councilman and Marimba as co-chairs for review.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I want to let the record reflect that Lakeisha Wolf from the Ujima Collective has also joined us. So let's now move on to the small business matching pilot program. At the last advisory board meeting, we discussed considering additional measures that can be taken to expend funds via the URA. And to that end, the URA's Chief Development Officer, Tom Link, is going to be with us today to present a possible opportunity to put funds on the street through a small business matching pilot program. I'm going to ask him to give the presentation, and afterwards, let's have a fulsome conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much, Council President. Thank you, Julia, and the co-chairs, members of the advisory committee. As Council President said, I'm Tom Link. I'm Chief Development Officer here at the URA, and thank you, Council President, providing context. Here at the URA, we've been, this is in response really to context that desire and sort of a bit of urgency to do what we can to move dollars to Hill District small businesses. And this, the craft, have a pre-decisional, this is pilot and pre-decisional program is a response to that. We're excited about it, but certainly presented it here for consideration by the advisory board. And with that context, so what we've created is a pilot program to help address this need. I'll go through sort of high level mechanics and just talk a bit about sort of URA process, just to give the committee and I guess the public, sort of recognition and window into sort of how we operate our small business programs and how we think this grant program can efficiently sort of meet into this program. So the pilot program that we're discussing here really would leverage the URA's existing sort of infrastructure and processes that we have in place, as I mentioned, to administer small business investment programs through the URA and also our affiliate CDFI Invest PGH, which we deliver investment products for small businesses through our programs across the city of Pittsburgh. Last year, we did a little bit more than 80 individual small business loans across the city, just to give some context to the sort of volume and robust nature of these programs. The pilot program essentially would provide a matching grant component to Hill District located small businesses that come to the URA or Invest PGH through our existing program seeking some sort of business expansion financing. So just as purely as an example, if we're working with a small business who comes to us and is exploring just for $300,000 expansion, say they're seeking equipment, working capital, other types of capital improvements for their business. This program could help us think about that in a full way to consider an up to $150,000 low interest loan to the URA or Invest PGH, and then matched by $150,000 pilot program matching grant. And just to kind of step into how this might affect underwriting and think about how our processes are currently set up. The way we think about this is, certainly a matching grant that would flow with potential small business loan into a small business. It sort of really enhances and strengthens the underwriting of certainly an individual business capacity. Certainly taking on less debt that they may otherwise have to, being able to reserve capital and cash that they may otherwise had to have put into an upfront project to be able to reinvest long-term into their business, certainly lowers the cost of capital in a sort of obvious way. Grants have no cost of capital. Certainly is a mitigant against, certainly the risk associated with small businesses, right? Dips in revenue and seasonality and these types of things. And generally speaking, provide a stronger base for that small business to grow. Again, we would think about this as leveraging existing infrastructure. So, this is kind of core business for the URA. We have processes in place that operate these programs today. We have small business investment specialists who are housed at the URA, who work hand in hand with small businesses, not just to underwrite loans, but we work with small businesses to understand their business needs, to help structure financing that's appropriate for the business. And then also we work very closely with technical assistance providers. We do a lot of work with Chatham University Center for Entrepreneurship to provide technical assistance to the small businesses we work with. So if this is something that we do, really a day-to-day, and it's a core business process here at the URA and SPGH. We use a third-party loan review committee. We're not individually as staff members kind of making decisions. We use a third-party loan review committee that supports us at the URA and staff and leadership, sort of advising on individual small business financing. It's not just simply saying yes versus saying no, but helping us to structure financing appropriately for small businesses, thinking about other types of advice and support we can provide to the small businesses come to the URA to sort of ensure that, that the public dollar is being invested, as well as the small business receiving the public dollars is best set up for success. Just a note on underwriting, we take what we think is a holistic approach to underwriting. We recognize that many small businesses, it's difficult and may not have access to traditional forms of private capital, and we recognize that both in terms of cost, in terms of access to the types of capital that many other businesses may have access to. So we take a holistic approach. Our interest rates are below market and much below market in most cases. We look at an approach from a small business in terms of understanding the entrepreneur, understanding their ability to operate their business, their passion, their character, and their belief in their business, as much as anything else beyond the sort of traditional underwriting standards that you may look at. So with that, we're able to help. We're able to help lots and lots of folks at some very basic level. It's our first step is to try to figure out how to help, and then how can our programs help a small business grow. I think if you go to the next slide, just to give a bit of this is just stats, just to give you a sense of, yes, you're hearing me talk about it, but just to give some data on our lending production. So as I mentioned, in 2023, we closed 80 individual loans, about $8 million directly from the URA and InvestPGH into small businesses across the city. The participation in these programs is 81% of these loans were to MWB enterprises, minority and women-owned business enterprises. And most of the businesses we support, and then more, we work with technical assistance providers to help provide additional support. And I expect in 2024, we're getting kind of past halfway point. We're certainly on pace for a similar production. In the Hill District in particular, we've been active. We've helped support 24 loans and grants. That includes the Avenues of Hope ARPA grants and small business loans that we've made. With about $4 million total invested into the Hill District businesses. 96% of those loans were to MWBE. So it's an active role that we play. So we've crafted this. We like it. We think we can move quickly. So it's certainly subject to, just to be clear, the URA board would have to authorize any of this and authorize us to operate a program. But we've had some very, very preliminary sort of conversations with individuals within our leadership internally, and we think it's a program that A, is exciting, B, we can move monies. Like we could start this very, very quickly given our production and infrastructure to date. So we can open, certainly it's a discussion for the advisory board. We would look to certainly some allocation of the funds dollars to be able to support the program, and we would ask for a 2-year pilot, 24 months. I mean, I'm a big believer in pilot programs. If it doesn't work, we will find that out. If there's ways we can tweak a program through a pilot, we can address those types of issues as we work through the program. So with that, I'll pause. And there could be many questions. I'm certainly happy to answer them. And I think co-chair asked me, yes, we can. Let me get the exact right number. My sense is it's probably pretty close to the same, but we'll get the exact number for the committee and certainly provide that answer to you.
Yeah, and then I'll have to also put the URA
please.
impact reports in the chat, which those are done on a quarterly basis. You could see our percentage of MWBE borrowers. And the last quarter was 75% for women and minority residential borrowers. Let me look at 73% for MWBE commercial borrowers. So, but I'll put the link in the chat.
And do you have the number for Black-owned businesses?
I'll certainly get that for you. I don't want to say, I'm like 90% confident it's the same number. But we'll make sure that's correct, and I'll get back to the committee and the co-chairs to make sure that we have that absolutely correct for you.
Thank you. And you're saying that the 2023 URA small business investment, that you did 24 loans in 2023, or?
That's 24 loans and grants, because that includes the Avenues of Hope ARPA grants that we made that were through our Avenues of Hope ARPA program, which provided essentially $1 million per Avenues of Hope that we invested throughout the city, but including the Hill District.
Okay, can you provide the number of loans?
Yes. Yeah, I'll provide that.
Thank you.
We will provide that. Again, give us a chance to walk from this. I'll get you the exact numbers for the advisory committee.
Thank you. There are a number of hands that went up. Dr. Ellis?
Yes. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. So Tom, I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
One, when did this program begin? I mean, I know that you're promoting this. You're talking to the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, but when did this particular program that included Invest Pittsburgh begin? And I understand it's a pilot, so roughly how long will it continue?
Sure. So I'll say this: the URA has been making small business loans, like, I think before I was born. Just being honest. So we've been doing this a very, very long time. My own personal career, I've been here at the URA for over 20 years. At the very beginning of my career, I was managing small business lending. So, and I was picking up a process that had existed for many, many decades. Invest PGH, particularly as a CDFI, we launched that, I believe, about 3 years ago or so as a affiliate entity to the URA to help expand our ability to, frankly, raise monies and invest more broadly to small businesses using a CDFI model. So the Invest PGH is more recent, but as an agency, as an entity, the small business lending has been part of our process for many, many decades. There was another question I'm forgetting. With this particular program, so this doesn't exist. We don't have this matching grant program doesn't exist today. We would stand this up as essentially a companion program to our small business loan program, specifically for Hill District located small businesses as as an additive investment with the gratitude and support of the fund to allow us to do that.
Okay, and then my other question, and actually I guess it's a request.
Yeah.
It sounds as though some of the applicants will be coming through Invest Pittsburgh, and you all are asking for matching funds from the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, but we have a requirement that the people be Hill residents, and we do have a general preference, just because of the concept of the neighborhood, that they be African American. Do you have I don't think Invest Pittsburgh has the same requirements, but would we be making those same requirements for this matching pilot program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that if that's the desire of the committee for the use of the monies, that would be something we'd have to, I'd have to go back, make sure we can incorporate that. I just know from a lender's perspective, sometimes we have to be careful about, preference versus absolutes, right? Like you barring folks from applying to certain programs. But that said, I mean, certainly if that's the mission and goal and desire of the committee, we would internalize that and make sure that how we could incorporate that into this program and make sure it's it meets with that mission that you've described. And if it doesn't, that's okay, and we can just decide. We would discuss that. But my quick read is yes, we could, but just allow us to think on that and make sure we would incorporate it appropriately into program guidelines. Okay,
and last question is, what is there any limit to the amount requested? I know that in the presentation is 150,000, but is there a limit if somebody wanted higher?
This is my recommendation as a professional. I would cap, just based on what I would cap it at 250 per individual business, and certainly could go below that. I mean, two things you'd want to make sure you consider, at least from my perspective. One is that there's a need for the capital, right? You're not just sort of like, somebody has $100,000 in need, you don't need to give them $1 million, right? There's an actual, that part of our responsibility and as a fiduciary into these programs would be to ensure that, that's a valid business need to help to pay for. But then secondly, to your point, I mean, depending on the need, right? Like some small businesses the capital expenses that are looking at could be quite expensive, right? Like, real estate, equipment, these types of things can get quite costly. So my suggestion would be to go up to 250, but that's certainly a discussion point and not written in stone.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. George.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Tom, this sounds like a great program for the URA, this pilot program. But I'm just questioning why the Hill District funds for this, simply because what you're asking totally disrupts our allocations, and you all know the allocations that we have for this. And it would mean that several just based on our budgeting, things that we have planned, including like rent assistance, a little more housing, children and youth education initiatives, all of that will be blown out of the water to accommodate this. Also, so the first question is, why was this fund chosen as part of your pilot? Okay, that's the first question.
Sure.
And the second,
no.
go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, let me take an initial stab at
Sure,
it
thanks,
and then
Councilman.
turn it to Tom.
Yeah.
So you may recall that we had a conversation about what programs could URA help get dollars out the door for. And I think those are the ones that are highlighted in yellow: development initiatives, project development, MWE development initiatives, MWE business, counseling initiatives, recurring revenue initiatives. And so the thought was, and this is again totally up for a discussion point, was the URA could pull dollars out of these line items, still leaving in children and educational initiatives, still leaving in rent assistance and all of that to help fund this. Now, whether you want to pull out 100,000 or you want to pull out $1 million is sort of up for the discussion. I would say 100,000 is probably way too low, because then it wouldn't match up to staff time to do the work. But I'm just trying to make a point, whether it's 100 or $1 million that will cobble together out of these line items, or just one line item, that's sort of part of the discussion that needs to take place today. Is there anything else, Tom?
No, I think that's right. I mean, from a budget perspective, I mean, I'm not, the allocation plan and the budget that the advisory committee has, it's your role to advise to it. I mean, that's a really discussion for the advisory committee as to specific line items. We think, the council president sort of, labeled them that these particular initiatives, I think, make sense for this, but clearly that's an advisory committee. That's in your discussion, and something to be thought through. As to the program and why the fund, just to be very clear, this program is specific for the Greater Hill Fund. We're not, this is not something we're piloting out that we're out fundraising for. Otherwise, we're not, quite frankly, if this doesn't happen through the fund, we don't plan on sort of taking this to different communities or throughout the city to try to stand up the program separately. But again, to the council president's point, this is, we were charged with, both, as council president said, through this committee, and frankly, at the URA board, we had, folks came publicly and made comments to say, hey, how can you help us? How can you help get dollars out to small businesses? And so this is a effort and a hopefully innovative. We think, reaction doesn't sound quite right, but an innovative approach that we think is efficient. Again, it can move quickly, right? We could do this we could do this quickly with our existing infrastructure and processes. And that's really what we're describing here. So I'm hopeful that answers your question.
Kind of, sort of. But it's okay. It's okay. My next question is, I'm not seeing how this loan or payback of the loan will be breaking up, because a lot of what we did with the allocations, or a lot of the forethought that went into this, was based on wealth building as well as sustaining this fund. So with us matching a grant to a loan, how much will be coming back to the Greater Hill District Fund for its sustainability? Because I see what you're saying. I heard you loud and clear when you said money's going out, but that wasn't the main reason for this fund. And I want to see if that kind of thinking went into this proposal. Because I hear you, money's going out, but a lot of those where you have money's going out or allocation points that we already had in there, allocation lines, excuse me, that we had in there. It's just the numbers you're talking about are way greater. And we are speaking of a larger amount of money. So I'm trying to see how that comes back into the fund for the residents. And
Yeah,
small
I'm
businesses.
sorry.
A lot of our allocations are for businesses as well.
Yeah. So just to be, thank you for your question. I would say just, to be candid, what's pitched here, was a matching grant, so those grants would not come back. They would be grants to individual businesses matched by loans that could get repaid. But as this is constituted here, it would
So the
not be
loan
an
would get
evergreen
paid
sort of
back.
funding
The
source.
loan would get paid back, but not the grant. That's the
That's
point.
how this is currently structured, yes.
Right, so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll hold discussion on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Richard Witherspoon's hand went up.
Yes. Hello, hey Tom, how you doing?
I'm good, Richard. How are you?
Oh, doing pretty good,
Good.
good.
Yeah,
Well, I just want the community to know that we have had a relationship with the URA for about 4 or 5 years now around small business lines of credit. What has happened is that there has been a substantial deposit made to the credit union, and we are permitted to use that deposit as security on small business lines of credit. We have about, I would say at least 30 small businesses in the area that the URA is guaranteeing those small business lines of credit, but the amount is relatively small. It's just used mainly for like meeting cash flow, small cash flow needs, or startups and things of that nature. So I'm just saying that to say that the relationship that we have had with the URA around small business structuring and support has worked well for us.
thank you,
So,
Richard. I appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. And it goes without saying, but we certainly absolutely value the relationship and appreciate your partnership with us.
Mhm. That's all. I didn't have a question. That's
Thank
all I
you.
wanted to
Thanks, Richard.
let people know.
Dr. Ellis, I think your hand went back up.
Oh, no, I don't think it ever went back down. I'm sorry. I'll
Okay.
take it.
No worries.
I have a few questions, Councilman, if no one else has comments at this time. So first of all, I do appreciate that the URA has taken some time here to, I think, put together something that they interpreted that the committee had asked for relative to helping us get funds out. I have some follow-up feedback on the proposed changes to our allocation plan, which has already been approved and would have to be changed once again in order to accommodate this proposed plan. I think first I want to point out that the model that you're proposing actually does not fit the reoccurring revenue initiatives under community control. So we would need you to remove that line item from your proposal. And we already have spent $465,000, redirected $465,000 from the development initiatives line item to do the home repair program. And as you all know, we have an extensive need for development. In fact, this fund was initially conceived of development. And in fact, over the past 2 committee meetings, the committee has expressed dire concern about making sure that we are investing in critical projects in the neighborhood. So wiping out the development initiatives budget for a second year in a row, I fear not only violates the spirit of the intended use of the fund, but also significantly changes the allocation plan in a way that would hurt the Hill District neighborhood. So what would that math look like then if and I don't know what project development, I'd have to go back to some of our prior information. So I am first responding that recurring revenue initiatives under community control should be removed, because while you all would get repaid, the URA, the fund actually would not. So that just does not align with that particular line item. Development initiatives, these funds that you are proposing, you distribute would go to private businesses, if I'm understanding correctly. Is that right?
Well, actually, it would be nonprofits and private businesses would be eligible.
Okay,
So
because
as they
it
currently
said-
are under our under our lending programs.
Okay, it did say small businesses, so you
It did.
meant,
I'm using that sort of almost. Yeah, that's a great question. But our loan programs, as nonprofits are actually eligible applicants as well.
okay, so are you proposing that this be eligible for nonprofits and small businesses?
Yeah, if they're eligible through the existing loan programs, I think they would also be eligible for this program.
Okay, I think that's an important factor. But I still have some concerns about the development initiatives and the recurring revenue initiatives line items being completely liquidated as a part of this proposal. So I'd like to ask that those be removed and that it be represented with that, because as you can see from the budget you're presenting, obviously MWBE development initiatives, that makes sense. MWBE business counseling initiatives, I think one could argue that that would make sense. Wealth building initiatives, there are other ways to do wealth building other than through a direct small business program, but I think one could argue that that aligns. And then project development, I mean, I guess that could possibly be perceived as kind of a small business or even other type of program. And so I think that that one could, possibly align. So those are the recommendations and requests that I have offhand. And then also I have some concerns about how, and I think this is not something to discuss or figure out during the meeting. This is a follow-up discussion, I believe. Currently, just like any organization that does business on a day-to-day basis, particularly at the volume that the URA does, everyone is not going to have a positive relationship with the Urban Redevelopment Authority, although plenty of people and organizations do. And so we would not want to, in fact, a lot of people were very excited that the Hill District was going to have its own pot and source of money. So I do have some concerns with funds being, I would suppose, being perceived as controlled, and those decisions aligning only with the URA's decisions, because some people just may not pursue that because perhaps they were denied in the past, perhaps they didn't have a great experience with the URA, or something of that nature. So, I'm sure there are lots of people who will apply, so please do not take this as an indictment per se, but do take it as important feedback for us trying to contact and connect with folks beyond the existing pool of parties who are engaged in the URA. So that's my immediate feedback.
So let me quickly respond to you, Marimba, and then open it back up for more questions or thoughts. If you remove the line items that you suggested we remove, and you kept the other line items in play, you would then have $390,000 of which you could potentially give away matching grants. So just for everyone's perspective, that's what that number would look like. Secondly, I certainly don't view this, to your last point, as URA makes a decision and that's the end of the conversation. I view this as URA is standing up a small business initiative within the Hill District. Yes, those applications come into the URA, excuse me. But before funding is awarded or anything of that nature, we would certainly be willing, it would be my expectation that the URA would then have conversations with this committee to say, here's what we're suggesting occur. Are you all okay with that? Because this committee may have other thoughts and opinions, or may want to adjust amounts, or may say, yes, that makes total sense. No, that one doesn't. And then go from there before anything was actually awarded. So I view this as a working conversation with this committee, not an isolated one amongst the URA. So I just wanted to be clear about that. Others, thoughts,
Well,
concerns?
can we go back to that, well, if we're moving on, that's fine.
No, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to go back to that chart. Because I'm not sure that, I mean, let's talk about next steps here. Is this something we want to talk about at a committee level? How would we like to make a decision on this? I would be okay. I think that, what did you say, $390,000 for,
If I did my math
I
right, yeah.
actually think that's a great size for a pilot program. I think that's a perfect size for a pilot program. Because we're not, I mean, trying to allocate $1.5 million to a pilot program is a significant amount when we have when we have so many other needs in the community. And so let's see if that $390,000 can be delivered to those who are interested and who are already working with the URA, or those who will be working with the URA. And then we'll have actual empirical data to drive our decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ellis, I saw your hand go back up.
Yes. So I think, so there's a couple of things that I want to discuss, but in our, if we move into our closed private session, I just want to remind everybody that one, in the previous number that was issued at our last meeting, that's not the number that the subcommittee came up with on our own. It was actually lower. So we can talk about that in committee. And also, just as a reminder, I think Councilman Lavelle already spoke about this, but I wanted to elaborate that this is an effort to get these funds out, and to have the URA assistance. And so the amount we can discuss in committee. This is not a decision for one person. In spite of the proposal, we need to discuss it and agree on it in committee. So that's another thing. And then I do think it's generally a good idea, but what I would like to know from Tom, I just forgot about this. Can you send us the requirements of Invest Pittsburgh, and just so that we can learn,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
yeah. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
All
of
right.
course.
Just to your main point, Kim, again, this is simply a proposal. The last time we were here, URA said, we think these are the areas we could help get dollars out the door. The committee asked us to bring back something explaining what that would look like. So this is one way to do it. It's not, we can say yes, we can say no, we can adjust the amounts. That's totally up to us, and we can certainly do that. So I just want to just be clear about that.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Councilman LaBelle.
So, we could move this to committee. I'd love to get some input from other committee members at this stage as to whether or not they would like to move on this now at a $390,000 level, or at an amended level. If there are any other points, or if there are any other points of interest or comment, that would be helpful in guiding the co-chairs in figuring out next steps.
I would like to discuss this further with the committee, please.
Yeah.
Lakeisha?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Just for the record, I would say that I also would like to give us time to have more discussion about it. I definitely think that we need to look at the numbers. I agree with Marimba in the fact that taking all of that would drastically change what we've been working on. And I feel like we just keep coming back to this budget over and over again, right? And I know that we all have spent a lot of time in trying to get this money out the door. And so, yeah, like I do appreciate the idea of matching grants. But I think that we need to, we probably need to have some more conversation about it, really look at where you know, maybe in the same way that we looked at the home repair piece as like a pressing need, I think that we need to look at where our line items are at now, and which ones we feel like we need to perhaps put into this matching grant program, and which ones we need to retain as sort of stand alone items that folks can apply for. But yeah, I think that we definitely need to have more time and have, you know, schedule another meeting offline to be able to do this.
This is Rev. I agree with more time to process.
All right, in my opinion, I think I agree with everyone that there needs to be more time to process. But during that time, until we do come together again, I think we need to draft or have a template of some type of criteria that would allow someone to get the grant or borrow the money or whatever the case may be. We need a policy of some type. So that we can disperse it even-handedly and not, you know, do it from a feelings perspective, you know. So if there's a resource at this table that could potentially put together a granting template or a lending template of some kind, so that when we do come together to decide how we should go forward, we'll have something to work with in terms of coming up with policy.
So Richard, to
This
refresh
is-
your memory, the advisory committee has already worked extensively on an application. That application is ready to be issued, but for not having staffing, which is a part of the next agenda item. We have already accepted our allocation plan.
Okay,
This would be a significant change in the allocation plan as it is currently proposed.
yes.
And I think a part of what we have to do is challenge ourselves to be disciplined around, this is my perspective on it, around our prior decisions, if we really want to get these funds out. And that requires discipline around our administering organization to also be disciplined about what happens between meetings. And so I want to be clear about that because, like the rest of us, we're feeling pressure to get this process underway. And while this is an idea to do so, I don't know that we want to veer so wildly from the allocation plan that was already approved and endorsed by the committee in the process of doing an innovative and possibly great pilot program. So I just want to remind you, there's been a lot of work done. We have to get to the hiring part of the meeting, but noted, and we will, you know, certainly get this into committee so we can get a decision and get the funds out. Alicia?
Well, no, I
I'm sorry.
my last point, please.
Sure.
So I know that there has been, you know, the application, all those things put in place, but this is sort of an enhancement to that. You know, we have to, like, for the granting and the lending and the business setup, or however the business is structured, is there going to be some requirement in that application for a business? Is it a startup, or is it you know, do you have to, or if they're an LLC, do you need their articles of incorporation? There's a whole lot more that needs to be added to what we already have when it comes to small businesses, is my point.
If it's
Understood.
okay, apologies.
Understood.
Yeah, apologies if it's okay, co-chair. Yeah, I agree with you, Richard. I mean, maybe what would be most helpful, we'll send you our guidelines, you know, Richard, the question, the simple answer to the question is yes. Businesses come to us if they're an LLC, we require, you know, the articles of incorporation and sort of a variety of due diligence documents to sort of ensure who they are, who the small business is. But I think as a step, and again, we're here to help. This is a proposal to pitch. It's not, you know, nothing's fait accompli here. We'll send you what we do. We have an existing application. Like, from my perspective, use that as a starting point, right? We already take applications. And I'll send our guidelines, and the committee can, you know, again, without really, no offense if you think they're not the right ones, but please take a look at those and how you feel those might align with, again, the goals and the mission that you've described. So thank you so much.
Ms. Shorts?
I'm sorry, I failed to put my hand down. I was just gonna say what was just said to remind everybody, this is just a proposal. We haven't even accepted it yet and reviewed it. So for us to move forward as if it's already in place, I think would be negligent because we have not even considered our priority at this time in terms of our guidelines. So someone said that, but that's all I was going to say.
Okay, then
Just
what
to
I've
make sure we're very clear on that.
what I've heard clear from the vast majority here is that you're willing to entertain this proposal, but you need more time to give it consideration and then also decide what the appropriate funding levels are. With that, I'll move on to the next update. But before we leave this meeting, I would ask all of us to look at our calendars so that we can schedule the next time to have this conversation, hopefully within a week, so that some determination can actually be made. So we'll come back. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. Thanks, Advisor Committee. Thank you.
So we'll come back to schedule, but I do want to move on to the next sort of update, which is the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Consultant update. In our previous meetings, the advisory board did not recommend moving forward with any of the responses to the RFP for resource navigator and quality control inspector. The next steps following that decision included working on a program officer job description. Once that job description was drafted, the URA's legal and leadership teams reviewed it and considered how it would fit within the organization's operations, and it was determined that a project manager consultant would be the best fit. The URA has drafted an RFP for a project manager consultant. That project manager consultant will be housed at the URA, and the initial contract term will be for 24 months. The scope of work would include application management and support, including application assistance, recommendations, reporting, and seeking partnerships to deliver the goals of the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund, including community outreach and engagement. I believe we've put up the potential timeline. I would ask that you all review it and let me know if you have any questions.
I'd like to jump in here. I have expressed at the committee level as well as at the co-chair level, and in direct communication with the URA, that I have concerns about going back to an RFP that we've already done in the past that yielded no results, and that will set us back by many, many, many months. I have also expressed concern about language around a consultant versus a contract employee. I understand that in a direct hire employee might be a problem. Contract employee, I do not understand why that is a problem, or if that is a problem. I fear that the committee will not get the support and services that it needs from a consultant who has where we are one of 6 clients. We have a lot of work to accomplish. We have already tried this approach. If we go through this, it's going to take at least, how long? What is the legal requirement for a posting for? So November 14th, proposal recommendation. So October 31st, let's just say October 31st, or we realize that we don't even get responses. So on September 27th, let's say we don't get any viable responses. What's our next step after that? I mean, remember, this is, I believe, a $60,000 to $80,000 contract for a consultant who has the quality of expertise that we're looking for. That is a considerable, I mean, that is not, in my opinion, in the realm of competitive numbers for a quality consultant, perhaps a quality employee, but not a quality consultant. because consultants generally are not employees because they are looking to expand their income. So I don't know about you all as committee members. I fear that we will have a consultant who tends to us 4 hours a week. And because they are under the consultant category, the URA can technically not direct the way in which they work, if they come to work, and the methods by which they work. That would be illegal. So I think that it would behoove us to have some conversation around this topic so that we can figure out how to proceed.
I tend to agree from Rembo on that, on all of what she just said. My preference would be a neighborhood employee of what organization that we can visually see, touch, put our hands on, and a given overall 9 to 5 day.
I'll come to you, Dr. S. I saw your hand go up. Rev, I will simply respond and say, I understand, and I understand the concerns Marimba has brought forward. I understand the concerns you have, but those same concerns have been articulated for over a year, and this committee was unable to find where that person, what organization would be hiring and housing that person.
But the
Dr. Ellis?
last time we left this meeting, that was going to be the URA. That was what had been communicated, and then that changed between our last meetings. So I do think it's important to just.
It didn't change. It was expressed that yes, it would be ideal for the URA to do this. And then the URA then sat down and went through its structure, met with its legal department, determined how this would have to play itself out. And this is how it would have to play itself out with that person being hired at the URA and being housed at the URA.
And can the URA provide why it can't be a contract employee to the committee?
I cannot provide, I don't want to speak on behalf of legal, but they did look at that and that they came back with no, project manager consultant.
Correct. And we were asked if we could provide office space, and we do have a cubicle that we can provide to the project manager consultant. So I don't know who's on iPhone who said they want a neighborhood employee 9 to 5. I agree that there should be a strong neighborhood presence for this consultant. But we were asked if we could provide a space, and we can provide a cubicle.
And just so for more context, one of the reasons we were asking the URA to provide space was URA already has about 3 to 4 staff members who, as part of their job, work on this. And so this full-time person, and the way the job description is written, it is emphasizing that this is our expectation. I understand what we can legally do, remember, but it's written as our expectation is that this is your main focus. And that the reason for them to be at the URA is so that they have access to everything else that's affecting this work. But I also agree with Rev as well as the director that absolutely they should be in the community. They should be able to touch people, should be able to see them, work with them, and that person should be able to hold residents' hands and through the process. So no disagreement there. Dr. Ellis?
Oops. Yes. I wanted to, okay, yeah, I was slightly confused at first, but now I have more clarity. So thank you. And I think what I would like to add is that I think that it could be okay because we did ask for office space, and we also did ask for somebody to be knowledgeable, right, about these things. But I would also ask that we make it a requirement to have satellite offices in the community. For example, 1 week you're at Carnegie Library, another week you're at Bedford Hope Center, another week you're at Reverend Grayson's Church or the Grayson Center, right? I think that could be fine, and it could work out pretty well, and it could still serve our purposes, as well.
Thank you. Others? George?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to click fast here. I'm a little concerned about calling this a project manager consultant, because that's a little different than the role that we designed for this originally. And we haven't been able to get that role out because we were waiting for feedback from the URA, that type of thing. We have to say you're a project manager consultant is different than being the person who looks at applications, who processes those applications, communicates those applications to everyone else, and be the or the quality control construction inspector. Project consultant does not address that need for me, and the title we gave this and the job descriptions that have been produced by this committee. So I'm looking for a little clarity in why we're going back to a consultant position when we see the needs that we have before us just with the applications, getting this money out. And to me, that's the real roadblock.
The consultant language is what is necessary for the URA to do the hire. The actual work is in, and we can resend it out to everyone. In the job description does specify they will be doing all of what you brought up, Ms. George, and they would have to perform all those tasks and all those duties.
So basically, if I'm hearing you correctly, because I'm really trying to understand this, this is really based on how the URA is saying they can hire. The URA alone is saying how they can hire someone. And that's why we have the consultant language. But now that brings me to, more of what Marimba was saying about why not be a contractor? You all have contractors. And then we keep the focus and the position the way it was designed to be. Because also a consultant will not have just this as their focus. And I'm a little concerned about that because we've lost a lot of time. And to go back down the same road again is a little confusing for me. So I'm just trying to see why not a contractor in this case, as opposed to, them just saying we can't do it unless we change the whole name to a consultant. But people who do this, they know what project manager consultant is, and it's not really in alignment with our job description, and that kind of disturbs me a little bit. Is there any way, Ms. Sheila, that the contractor can be better and further reviewed and that looked at a little closer? Because I'm not seeing how this would be different than some other projects and things with the URA. I'm just really concerned about the focus and getting people in here who understand the scope of the job from start to finish without any sort of questions, interferences from organizations, because, this is a person that has to deal with a lot of entities, if you will. And we can't run them out the door before they start. So is there any way we can revisit that? Or is it just something that the URA is saying we are hell-bent on calling this consultant, a consultant position?
Is your question changing it from project manager consultant to project manager contractor?
No, you were expressing that, and what I was hearing is that the reason why the name got to consultant was because of the way the URA has to hire. That's what was just said. And I am asking, can you review that to the point where you look at this as a contractor position? Because I know the URA does do contractors. And look at it that way, because my concern is when you call this position a project manager consultant in any regard, that is not getting the task and the focus of our job description out there. And it could be confusing. We need someone that understands from start to finish, even in their title, what this is. Also, I agree with Marimba on the roles of consultants and how consultants handle things. We would not be their sole focus. and we need someone who can focus on us. So is it possible, my question, again, is it possible to get the URA to review this position as a contractor position so we can keep the title for the clarity of the position? Keep the title, change it to a contractor position as URA can do, has done. Is it possible to do that? That is my question.
Change it. Okay, I just want to repeat back what I think I heard. You want to call this a contractor position?
No, I'd like to keep what we have, that title. But I was understanding from what you all were just saying that the only reason it changed was because the way the URA has to hire. Is that not correct? Because that's what was
No,
said.
we have consultants and we have employees, right?
Contractors.
What, do you mean general contractors?
Contractors for various positions within the URA and of course, general contractors as well.
We don't use the term contractor for employees.
My proposal was contract employee.
Yeah, we don't have that as a terminology.
But you
I
do
mean,
have
can you use it though?
contract.
I mean, it does exist.
But I thought, sorry,
I'm just trying to get clarity here.
I
Because part is confusing.
thought we did not want the person to be an employee of the URA.
That's correct.
That was our discussion. Okay, so they're saying, so there is no.
I mean, hold on, who's speaking? I think we have multiple people speaking.
It's Alicia and I are speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kim.
No, I mean, I heard you. You were, I mean, we weren't crossing each other, but so it's Alicia and I that are contributing to the conversation.
Okay, was there a question on the table? I'm sorry.
Yes, it's that there at the URA, there's either employee or contractor. And I heard you say, Marimba, that you wanted contract employee, and they're saying that's not possible. But beyond whatever their possibilities or restraints are, we as a committee did not want that person to be an employee of the URA.
So
Real quick, just for everyone's clarity.
Yeah, thank
when
you.
you all use the word contractor, that's not language URA has. We either have full-time employees or who you all are considering contractors, we actually hire as consultants.
Right.
I don't know. All I'm saying. I'm sorry, Councilman.
No, go ahead. I just want to clarify
that. I understand that there are a lot of different categories of employment and contracting that can be utilized legally. Whether or not it's the standard practice for an organization is probably not as relevant as is being held up at this point, right? Just because we've never done something doesn't mean we can't do something. So, it's not like we're trying to create a new category of employment or consultancy. Nobody at the state or federal government is going to have to create a brand new category in their drop-down box to create, some unfamiliar term. Contract employee is a very, very commonly used term that has explicit terminology and definition around it at every level of government and at every corner of business. Okay, so that is what I was asking for. I was not asking for a contractor. And my reasoning is very, very simple. It is because I am looking for a psychological buy-in from our applicants to serve the interests of the advisory board. It is not that we will not be able to get a talented person who is a consultant, but the nature of a consultancy is that you do not run your consultancy off of the income of a singular client. And quite frankly, no one legally, now this is where it could get hairy, no one legally can tell you to. So when our consultant, let's fast forward a bit, should we hire a consultant who's not performing and who has an initial contract term of 24 months? We could not direct them to report to the URA daily. We could not direct them to use our technology. We could not direct them to use our methods and tactics legally, because consultants do not have to abide by those rules and regulations. And I think it's really important for the committee to understand that. So I'm not saying that, right, I understand that there are things that we're all comfortable with and that we are used to, but I think it's really important that we understand that this is a unique situation. To your point, Kim, Councilman Lavelle did reach out to another agency. I don't know if it was stated on record at the last meeting. I know everyone was familiar that he was going to make outreach to another organization to see if they would be able to be employed at that organization, and that organization was not able to employ a person on behalf of the committee for an assortment of other reasons specific to them, right? And we also had promised, I believe you in particular, were urging us at the last meeting to move on the job description posting. That was you specifically, and I believe Reverend Grayson also was expressing the urgency, and I agree with you both, right? So between the last meeting and this meeting, we got a no from the potential organization that we had all jointly said we'd be comfortable with. And we had a conversation about the urgency of now, to which the URA said, well, we will issue an RFP, a 7-page RFP, and put it on our procurement site, and someone can respond that way, at which point we had a discussion about that maybe being a backward step. So that's the full context of why we are where we are. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. It is.
May I ask a question for all, and I'll give it to you, Kim. Based upon what I heard Ms. George saying and what I think I heard you saying, could we, and I'm gonna ask this to the director of the URA, could we call it the Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Project Manager position?
Yes.
Ms. George, does that address your concern?
Somewhat. I'm just really concerned about the focus of this and also the language on this chart here about this person would report to the URA. This person is not an employee of the URA. And at last discussion too, we were having them report and run the reports past our co-chairs. And I'm concerned about that. The consultant, I'm just going to be honest, the word consultant really bothers me, but I just want it clear. And I'm pondering what you just said, Councilman. I can't say I got 100% buy-in on it at this time. I have to think on it a little more because some of my concerns are still in that title because it's going to impact the operations as well.
I think also, so that's great news. I actually would support a Greater Hill Reinvestment Fund Project Manager title. That'd be great if we could do that. I have my second concern is the process of application. Normally, when you are applying to a project manager role, you are not having to submit to a 7-page RFP. Could we issue a request for qualifications and/or a request for resumes, candidates, where applicants simply send their resume?
No, you're describing a URA staff position. So we can call it a Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Project Manager, end quote, but that would still be consultant contract for a period of up to 24 months, 2 years.
Okay,
Right,
so
you-
it
you
has
just-
to be a proposal format. It has to still
That's
kind of
correct,
follow that.
that's correct. So certainly we could change the title to Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Project Manager. But again, it would still be a consultant contract.
Okay,
Yeah, because you, I mean, what I heard was the request to change the name of the title, but what Marima just described was someone submitting a resume, and that's a process for hiring a staff person, which, you know, is not
But does it have to be?
path.
Does it have to be? I mean, don't we all define our own employment and hiring and consult? Like if, for example, if my organization wanted to hire a consultant, we could structure that RFP to be, please submit your resume here. Right? It doesn't have to, I am concerned that the process in and of itself is going to weed out many applicants who could possibly do this job. Again, I have to call out the salary range, right, is going to cater to a specific applicant. And that specific applicant is not generally used to writing, in my opinion, or responding to 7-page RFP. So I guess my question is, can we, even if it comes out in an RFP format, can it be more like an RFQ? And can people be requested to submit their resume for consideration?
If someone can't reply to this, then they're probably not qualified to do the job, is probably my initial reaction to that.
I know, but I have a different question. My question is, can we, I didn't say they can't. Again, everybody has to measure and assess their time and how they want to utilize their time. They have to first register for Eon Wave Technologies, right? They have to register to become a part of the URA's procurement site in order to even access the full RFP generally, right? And then they apply. So the way that normally the word gets out for a contract employee or maybe a less closely held, right, consultant is by way of a job announcement or job opportunity, right? And so that can be a 2-pager that can go out on LinkedIn, Indeed, other sites, as opposed to, hey, you've got to register for the procurement side to even have a chance to apply to this job. So my question is, can we put out a more basic RFP then and say that this is an RFQ, and when you submit we'll be in touch essentially if your resume qualifies. I believe that we would get more applicants in a situation like that. More viable applicants. And I think that's my greatest concern, because we've already tried the other way and we didn't get a lot of good responses, and none that we felt we could move on, certainly. Do you think that formatting would work?
I don't know. Do you want to take a crack at that?
Oh, sure.
Make
I
that,
mean, it would be the job description largely, and you know what I mean, with that, whatever, I guess, preamble and closing paragraph to submit your resume for qualifications, for qualification review. I'm happy to take a crack at that.
but that would need to be done within the consultant RFP framework that we sent.
But
So,
that's 7 pages, right?
yeah, but a lot of that is just general boilerplate language that we have to put in RFPs.
Okay. All right, if you could send the Word doc, I don't know that I ever got that. If I have the Word document, I'm sure I can take a swing at that. But the committee had reviewed the job description and so forth, so that's fine. Well, I'll take a swing at it. Lakeisha?
Yeah, I just had a curiosity around this conversation and wondering if, in reference to this money for this particular job, is it against the policy to have the amount, that total amount of money that would be for this contracted position moved to another organization than who could do the hiring, if that was an option? And I'm not sure if it is, but I just wanted to ask, like, if this is an issue in terms of what needs to be done, and the URA not being able to do it in a way that would be practical and sufficient for how the community needs this to be done, right? If there is another way for this to happen.
It's certainly an option, Lakeisha. I had not been able to find another organization who was willing to do the hire.
Hill CDC would be willing.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have consensus from all members, but I'm just saying I want to be clear on the record. And there may be other organizations who are, but we could take a vote if it comes down to it. My point is, I think that others might be willing. The question is a level of appropriateness.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And maybe that's, that is something that we could consider in a quick and timely manner, right? So I'm not sure when we're gonna, I know that our goal is to look at our calendars to see when we would have this closed committee meeting around the budget. But if that's something else, right, that could also be talked about and organizations considered in that meeting as well. Just so that we can be able to, really meet the alignment of the values we're holding for this job and not kind of be caught up in the bureaucracy of the governmental stuff.
I'm open to have that conversation, Lakeisha. You, in your remarks, you said in a timely manner. My only concern is that it may not occur in a timely manner. And then finding said organization working on the RFP or RFQ for that organization, it's going to take time. Now, this will also take a little bit of time. So as of right now, the URA will be releasing this on September 6th and would be hoping to have someone under contract by November 14th. If we choose to find another organization, which I'm open to the conversation, that'll also add time. So just something for us to be considerate of. But if we're going to find time to meet next week, we would then be able to also respond to the URA on whether or not we wanted them to move forward with releasing this in a week's time or not.
So then it sounds like maybe, I'm not sure if that's just like a proposal question for the rest of the members here. If folks feel comfortable with moving with the URA under using simply a different title for the position, right? And taking that consultant piece out and calling it a project manager, right? And folks would want to move forward with that. Or if we want to, in some fashion or form, efficiently put out, a short list of groups that might be able to also do that work for us.
I would be comfortable with the title change and a shortened RFQ versus RFP, and that the qualifications be demonstrated by submission of resume. Portfolios are welcome. I would be open to that if the URA is open to that.
I'm looking at the draft RFP right now, and I think a small tweak to the title as the councilman recommended, and then section 4 where it talks about response requirements. So all the other 6 pages are, providing background and providing the boilerplate language that we have to put in a consultant RFP. The response requirements, it's really a page that we're asking for. And so it's requesting a cover page, table of contents, transmittal letter, a proposal, and then MWBE participation. I think it could be condensed to, I would highly recommend a letter that you ask for a letter. I mean,
That's fine.
Okay.
We can do a letter and a resume.
And then instead of a proposal, we can change that to a resume. the sub bullets under that are experience, organizational profile, if applicable, and MWBE participation. And that actually could be moved up to the letter requirements. Makes a lot of sense. So, in fact, I can make that small tweak and resend.
Can we talk a little bit about MBE requirements? Because in this particular context, if someone is submitting their resume, and they are an individual who is not in a business, an established business, right? They're just an independent.
Yeah.
Who they want to perform as an independent contractor of sorts. But they don't plan to get certified because they don't generally do large contracts, and this would not be, I don't think, fall under the category of a large contract. How can we address that?
Well, that's why I proposed putting that section into the letter requirement, asking it to be addressed there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can it say something like, are you an MWBE, or, you know, please specify if you are an MWBE or something.
All right, so they would provide a brief statement of MWBE participation goals if they are an organization and have an organizational profile, but then I would recommend putting MWBE participation in the letter.
I could agree to that process. Thank you, Sushila.
I'm gonna review this with my legal team too. Just it's a caveat.
Understood.
Okay. So based on what I just heard, I believe there's some agreement to the change in the title. The workarounds that the director and Marimba just sort of spoke towards. And if that's an agreement, then we're generally comfortable moving forward with them releasing it on September 6th.
There's one more thing, and I think Kim has her hand up, as does Lakeisha still have her hand up. I do want to meet the spirit of Alicia's comments, or I believe, I'm not sure who said it, but somebody said that they should be floating to different organizations. I think that we should put in the requirement that they are expected to be on site at different Hill District locations for for time to be determined by the committee, advisory committee, but up to, 40 hours a week, something like that.
I don't think anyone disagrees with that. Dr. Ellis?
Yes, so just so I'm clear, well, one, I want to highly recommend that we do set up the meeting, excuse me, our meeting for next week. I don't think we should make a decision on this, although I do think the work should continue. And Sushila said she's going to work on something, and then Marimba said we could look at something, or but whatever happens, it like that work should go forward. We should definitely meet next week, and at next week's meeting, we should tell the URA, okay, yay or nay on this. And then I think the other question I had is, if we did decide that we don't want the person to go through the URA or to be a URA contractor, is the URA still open to that person being?
Did she break up for anyone else? I
Yeah,
didn't get that last
you
part.
broke- You broke up, Kim. What I think she was asking is if for some reason this group met and decided there was a more appropriate entity to house them, would they still be able to be at the URA? I think is what she was asking. And I believe the answer at that point would be no.
Oh, okay. Are you sure about that, or are you just thinking it, Councilman?
I'm thinking it just based on what I know of protocol, who has badges to get in and out, accessibility and everything else. And how it works. I don't think they would, but don't quote me as being 100% accurate. I will find out.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Anything else regarding this position? If not, can we quickly decide on a time to meet next week?
When you all meet, could you please define how much you would like this consultant to be in the Hill District? Because I think that that's really important to put in this RFP. Right, because again, like, we're happy to provide a cubicle for them. I think it's important to have them collaborate with URA staff just for that coordination, but again, I mean, I'm 100% that, you know, this consultant should be available to residents routinely and predictably.
Is it, and is the general requirement 40 hours a week? Is that the general consensus here?
Did they be in the community?
No. Is it the general consensus that the person work 40 hours per week?
I think it depends. I think that depends on, correct me if I think this is probably a question we should wait to get back from the attorney because it's really an employment law question.
Well, okay. Well, I just want to recommend that person be in the Hill District at least 6 hours per week, you know, for some type of satellite office. No, we can't hear you, Marimba.
I agree. I would say at least I was really shooting for even more. But I agree completely.
Yeah, I think most probably want more, but
Bare
we
minimum,
can,
you know.
we can decide that when we meet and then articulate that back to the URA so that can be within the RFP. How is next Friday for people?
Let me look.
I have some flexibility in the afternoon. I'm not available before 1:30.
I can do the afternoon.
I'm available 1 to 2:30, sorry. 1 to 2:30 if that helps.
I'm generally available too. Friday.
Does 1:30 on August 30th work for everyone?
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
Is 1:30 on August 30th, Friday, August 30th available for everyone?
Yes, this week?
Would it be September 6th?
September the
I'm
6th.
so sorry. I may not even be available. I'm sorry. I am available.
I apologize. So what's the latest we need to articulate to the URA? Because if they're going to release it on September
Right.
6th.
Right. Can we move that to?
Can we do Wednesday?
I can do Wednesday.
I can do Wednesday at 12:30.
That works for me as well. I can do Wednesday at 12:30.
Yeah, that's fine.
That works for me.
Yep, I can make that happen.
I think that's unanimous.
This is in person.
We can do in person, but I think we were just finding a time.
I think we should try in person. Welcome to come to the Grayson Center in person. I just think we work better kind of
At the Grayson?
Yeah, in person. I think we can process better.
Okay.
At the Reverend Grace?
Yes.
And we just need to make sure we communicate that in email to Richard.
Okay.
Will there be a virtual option for those that can't, that are available but are not able to attend in person?
We can make that happen.
Okay.
I can do a Zoom and invite that way if someone would like.
So 12:30 on Wednesday, those who can be there in person, please be there in person. I know it'll be next to impossible for me to be there in person. I'm gonna try to get on virtually. So Ms. George, if you would send out a link for those of us who will need to join virtually.
Wait, Councilman, does that time not work for you? Because I do think that your participation is going to be critical. Is that time not ideal for you? And if
It's
so,
not,
what time works?
because I have dual council meetings that day, and you'd be meeting right in between the meetings. But
When
I
is-
don't,
When is your
given
last
the two
meeting, your
decisions
last
that are,
council meeting?
given the two decisions that we're meeting to make, I'm comfortable not being there, and you just tell me what the report out is.
No, I think your participation is gonna be really important on, what time is the last council meeting?
The last one starts at 1 o'clock.
And what time would you normally be done?
Next week, 3.
At 3, can we meet at 3:30 on Wednesday?
That works.
I'm not available. I have a standing meeting at that time.
Well, it's so there's already two why don't we agree to meet just for this meeting and those two decisions, and then let's meet in person in a future meeting, because we're still gonna have to go over people proposals and things like that, and that might work better.
All right, that's a good idea. So Councilman, so what time can you definitely be there digitally?
I should be able to do 12:30 digitally.
Okay.
But
And I can even go to the meeting a little late, but
Okay, you have an hour or? at that time?
it'll just depend on the agenda, but I will stay as long as I possibly can.
All right, I mean, if is everybody available at noon?
12 will work for me.
Yes, I could do 12.
Okay.
Okay, so you want me to send it out for noon on Wednesday, September 4th, correct, everyone?
Yes,
Does that work? Okay,
yes.
no problem.
Thank you so much. Councilman, do you have anything else on the agenda?
No. No, that was all for the agenda.
Okay.
A couple
Thank you all.
clarifying points. I'm sorry, I should have raised my hand. I'm sorry about that. Number one, Councilman, you asked what day we needed to know in order to put it on the agenda. That would be Monday, September 9th. And it's always ideal when we make an announcement about a RFQ or RFP that is ready to go right after our board meeting, just given the announcement. And so the goal would be to have that finalized on Thursday, September 12th, the day of our board meeting, and it to be posted the 13th. Couple other things just to clarify. The request, because I'm putting together an email to my legal team. The request is to switch it to an RFQ rather than an RFP, and call it a Greater Hill District Neighborhood Reinvestment Fund Project Manager Consultant.
Consultant.
For the title,
Project manager.
yeah, for the title, they just want project manager.
Okay, it would
We
still be a
understand.
consultant contract though. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would put project manager 4, just so people immediately know what the role is. Project manager 4, Greater Hill District.
Okay.
And then, in lieu of asking for a proposal, I'm sorry, section 4, sub Roman numeral 5, it would say resume instead of proposal.
Right, cover letter and resume, you said. You thought a letter would be important, so I would say cover letter.
Rather than
and
transmittal
resume.
letter.
Mhm.
And then, we would delete a cover page and a table of contents. Okay, I think I got everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
All right,
Sushila.
real quick, just a question. Is there a repository with any previous documents or like I know that there is an area that can go on the URA website and listen to previous meetings, but is documentation also posted there, or is there anywhere I would be able to find like the job description that was agreed upon or any other pertinent documents just to kind of be back to speed?
Yeah, Britt, I would suggest that we find some time to get you scheduled for an orientation of sorts.
Okay.
So that you can at least be brought up to speed and provided with relevant and contextual documentation. So I'm
Perfect.
gonna, Sushila, if that's okay, I'm gonna ask URA staff to take the lead on that, on scheduling something with Britt, and I'll try to make myself available, and Councilman as well, if he's available, but, you know, understanding that may not be possible.
Perfect. Thank you.
In the meantime, can Gordon just add Britt to the specific document of the project manager, like, you know, just so that she can prepare for next week. This is a very simple task.
Yes, no, that's no problem, but I think Sushila is making revisions, so she's gonna send that.
And really quickly, I just wanted to ask, because I asked, this has come up a couple of times, and I know I had asked last time, and I thought that it might be shared on this agenda, but the question around the expenses for the for the staff time of the URA. So as we continue to look at the budget and look at, you know, what we have to like allocate to different line items, that question hasn't been answered yet. And so I just wanted to bring that up again. I know that the councilman said that he would have that information for us. So I'm not sure when it will be available.
I apologize. I clearly must have dropped the ball on that one. You're looking to know how much has come out of the fund, or?
Well, I know that in terms of what's been said is that the hasn't actually expensed money from the fund, right? But
How much could we?
yeah, like how much staff time is being logged, right, over the past couple of years, and is there an like this sort of ongoing bill, right, that is being accrued that we just don't see, right? Kind of where is that at? It's just like sort of this sort of cloud of uncertainty.
Understood. I will work to get answers to that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that was brought up at the last meeting and it was
Thank
asked,
you.
and yeah, they were going to provide a summary of their time to date, as it relates to the administrative costs as well. Thank
And
you.
if it's in kind, that'd be great. Just want clarity, where we
But
stand.
yes, that would be great.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Reverend Grayson?
I said, and if it's been in kind, that's great. We just want to know bottom line. If there's a drawdown coming, because it's hard to process what's out there when there's been no drawdown. But if it's been gratis support, we got your back. Still district, it'll be wonderful.
And I do think it's important for us to probably entertain, or move to, accept some type of parameters that time should not exceed allocated costs to date without explicit approval from the committee, just so that we don't get surprised in the event that we can't get that report out quickly. We don't have to do that now, but I do think that we should do that in the immediate term.
Okay, in that case, I'm gonna jump off this call.
Thanks, Sushila.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Take
We'll
care,
end.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care,
Have a
everybody.
blessed day, everyone. Take care.
Thanks.
Well, I just want to say I'm very, very proud